Thank you all so much for stopping by today. So, y'all, we are getting this garden area cleaned out, but we were on our live garden chat the other day, and one of our loyal subscribers asked a very good question, and that is, when do you prune your hydrangeas? So, before we begin, make sure you catch us live every Monday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, and then every Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So there are so many hydrangeas and very different varieties, and the first thing you have to know when you are choosing your hydrangea is what type it is. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a second. And what I have done is kept the tag on this one. These are two of the hydrangeas, but before we get started talking about when do you prune hydrangeas, I wanted to show y'all what we use to fertilize them each year. We use a dry release fertilizer, and when they start to bud out, these have really started. Normally when they start to get some new growth on there, I try to go in. I'm a little bit behind, but we're about to get it started for the gardening season. But I want to show you what dry release fertilizer that I use. Okay, so each season when we start to get new growth, we use what's called Hollytone. This is a slow release dry fertilizer. I'll show you the inside of it, and we just sprinkle it along the base, not at the base, but along the perimeter, or what they would call like the drip line of the plant. So basically I would just sprinkle it right along in here. And although it says Hollytone and evergreen and azalea food, you can also use this if you have azaleas. But remember what I told y'all with the espoma products, always look on the side, because they can also be used on all of these other type plants. And if you look very closely, you'll see hydrangea is on the list. So they can be used on the hydrangea, and this is what we use. Now, this is what is considered a panicle hydrangea, and we'll talk about when to prune if needed. But really, a lot of the companies are making it where you don't have to do a whole lot of pruning. They're making them very easy, like blooming on old wood, blooming on new wood. I know you've probably heard the terms, and we'll get more into that, because we also have endless summer hydrangea that blooms on old and new wood, and we'll talk about that. But I just wanted to show you the very first thing you need to know when you're purchasing hydrangea is what type it is. So let's go ahead, let's go inside, and let's break all of this down, so hopefully you will know when you should prune your hydrangeas. Okay, so I'm not going to stay in this area too long. If you make sure you follow us on Instagram. This is where the snake was back here, but these are where the endless summer hydrangeas that we have, they're back over here. And if you look very closely, we're starting to get some new blooms on them, and we'll talk more about the endless summer hydrangea as well. But I really need to clean up back in here, and I don't have like the right gardening attire or boots on, so I just wanted to show you real quick. So let me go inside and let's break all of this down. Our local garden centers are heavy with the hydrangeas. There are hydrangeas everywhere. So the key to everything is knowing the type of hydrangeas that you have. If you can save the tag on them, save the tag in somewhere that you can refer back to. But if not, write it down in your gardening journal what type of hydrangea that you have, because this is going to be the key to knowing when and how to prune. So one of the most important things you should determine when you purchase your hydrangea is if it blooms on old wood or new wood, because this is going to be the deciding factor of when and how you should prune. So some common old wood varieties hydrangeas that you may have heard of are Nico Blue and oak leaf hydrangeas, but some people also refer to them as mophead or French hydrangeas. So here's the thing. If you purchase an old wood variety of hydrangeas, you really need to know when you need to prune. So hydrangeas that bloom on old wood, they set their flower buds in the late summer or early fall. So it's important that you know you do not want to prune during the late summer or the early fall if you have a hydrangea that prunes on old wood. So if you have the type of hydrangea that blooms on old wood, you need to go ahead and prune that back once the flower is done blooming and it begins to fade. You want to prune it back to healthy buds. And in the late fall, what you want to do is go ahead and get rid of the dead, the weak, the damaged, or crossing stems. You'll be able to see that a little bit more clearly in the late fall or early winter, because all of the leaves will have dropped, and so those stems will be prevalent. Like, you'll see the ones that are crossing. Go ahead and get that out. A good way to see if it is dead, the stems, is take your fingernail and kind of and use it to prune back the layers of the stem. If it's brown, then it's probably dead. If you see a little bit green, then it's still alive. And again, if you see damaged or diseased stem, go ahead and get that off of the hydrangea. So here is an example of a hydrangea that blooms on old wood. So I've put an arrow of where I would make the cut. As you see, you have two healthy buds that are sticking out. So basically what I'm doing is I'm just taking off the once the flower and bud has started to fade, I'm just taking off that flower and I'm leaving the rest of the plant alone. I'm not cutting down. I'm just merely pruning the buds that have bloomed and they are now faded. So now let's talk about new wood varieties or hydrangeas that bloom on new woods. You will see several varieties. Some of the more common ones are limelight hydrangeas and also Annabelle hydrangeas. Those are hydrangeas that bloom on what we consider new wood. So if you have what's considered a new wood variety hydrangea, you still need to know when to prune. And so the best time to prune, if you have a hydrangea that blooms on new wood, is you want to go ahead and cut it back in late winter, early spring. But the key here is you want to cut it back before any new growth begins, because these type of hydrangeas, a lot of people cut them like almost to the ground because the new growth emerges either from the ground or just a few feet above the soil. So depending on the type of hydrangea that you have, how tall it gets, you want to at least cut it back by 1/3. Some people even go a little bit more by cutting it back just a few feet from the ground. So they do what is considered a hard cut. Like, they may cut it all the way and leave about 18 to 24 inches of the new growth or the plant from the ground. So this is what we call doing a hard cut. You're pretty much cutting off all of the top and you're leaving about 1 to 2 feet of the plant, because remember, all of this is going to start emerging from new growth. So the old wood does not mean anything. You've cut all of that back because, again, you're either going to see new foliage emerge from the soil or right above the soil level when you're dealing with hydrangeas that bloom on new wood. Okay, so at the beginning of the video, I showed you the endless summer hydrangea. And to me, this is the best of both worlds. And one reason why I really bought the plant is because it pretty much said that you don't really have to prune. So the endless summer hydrangea blooms on both old wood and new wood. So exactly what does that mean? So when it blooms on old wood and new wood, technically, you should not even have to prune anything because you're going to have blooms all summer long. and you're going to have it both on old and new wood. Now, the only time you should have to trim or prune back is if you have some dead stems, if you have dying stems, if you have stems that are crossing. You definitely want to, get that out of there so that they can form their shape. And then you also want to get rid of the diseased branches if you have any of that. So that is one reason why I did purchase the Endless Summer Hydrangea, because when I looked at the tag was like, really no pruning involved. So if you're going to have to prune, you're just pruning back the dead, the dying, the crossing, or the diseased branches, and they come back year after year. So hydrangeas are so beautiful. Sometimes you'll see blue, pink, even purple, and now white. So normally when you see a blue hydrangea, that indicates that there is acidic soil present. For us here in coastal Georgia, we always see blue hydrangeas. If you see pink hydrangea, that normally indicates that you have alkaline soil, and white hydrangeas are really not affected by the pH of the soil. But if you want to change the color of your hydrangeas, that is totally possible. So just looking at this chart right here, you'll see that you either need to change it to be more acidic or more alkaline. One of the common ways to change the color of the hydrangea is if you want the blue hydrangeas, which is acidic soil, you need to add aluminum sulfate. And then if you want the pink hydrangea, which indicates alkaline soil, you'll need to add dolomitic lime. And most of these are available at your local garden center, but it doesn't happen like you put it down and it just happens. I will tell you that it does happen over time, but it is possible to change the color of the hydrangeas if you want to see a different color. So make sure you comment below and let me know if this was helpful to you all. As always, thank you all so much for watching this video, and I hope you share this video with your family and your friends. If you are not a subscriber, we would absolutely love to have you as a subscriber. So make sure you tap the bell so that you can receive notification each and every time we upload a new video. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and until the next video, bye-bye.